24 and 85 millimeters sit on two different sides of the spectrum. They can look completely different from their background compression, their angle of view, their bokeh, and many other factors. When used for photo or video, the differences can be truly magical. I started my professional career originally on an APS-C camera in photography. Eventually, I moved to full frame and started incorporating more video into my work. In the past, I found myself mostly using zooms, but now I stick with a handful of primes as they offer a better aperture, they usually are lighter, they balance on gimbals easier, and they force me to move around to find my frame, which usually makes me think a little bit more about what my shot looks like. After using them more and more, I can reach for the correct tool more often than not on the first try. Let's take a walk to the local shooting range and I'll show you what these different focal lengths look like with some test footage. To begin, let's start with a basic leading shot with our subject walking towards us. One thing to note is it can be pretty hard to keep your subject in frame when you're using longer focal lengths, even if you're using a gimbal and especially when you're trying not to slip on the ice. Okay, next up, let's try a follow shot in profile and check out the difference there. Now let's do a circle, or the hero shot as I like to call it. Now forgive me as I was a little closer than I wanted to be with the 85, though I was trying not to slip, but you'll get the idea. So there really are a lot of differences between the wider and the telephoto lenses, notably how a person's face looks, as well as the foreground and background's perceived movement. Look at the 20mm and how the foreground is rushing by, and you can see even more of the location. Whereas on the 85, you have the subject more isolated and the background becomes more compressed, wildly different from how we see it in reality. Even though we are walking at relatively the same speed, the feeling of action comes through on the wide angle. You can change the emotion by simply changing the focal length. That combined with other aspects of a production, you can shape a scene or a story to have a certain feeling or an overall look. With the 35, you get this more normal view, closer to how we see. With 50mm, it's starting to give us that compressed look and greater subject isolation. With the circle shot or follow shot in profile, the 85 actually makes the movement even faster. Also, it can be a bit more chaotic visually. Another thing to note is the parallax effect you get between the foreground and background when there's more depth in your scene, and how the different lenses reflect that. The 35mm has really become one of my favorite lenses, as it has this normal, real perspective to it. And even though I said this was 24, it's actually a 20mm, but with the active stabilization, it's roughly a 24. Anyways, this lens is almost like you're actually there. For the finale, I'll show you a scene incorporating some different movement, and we'll use all the lenses again and check that out. Now I hope you're feeling even more inspired on how to use focal length to tell your story. Tell me which one was your favorite in the comments below and why. Until next time, shoot, edit, sleep, repeat.